The New York Knicks survived the Brooklyn Nets thanks to a clutch Jalen Brunson three late and then an equally clutch Mikal Bridges block. Why do the Knicks continue to struggle with bad teams? All that and more right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I want to remind you that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. That's right, Locked On Knicks now has a newsletter. Introducing the daily newsletter, your one-stop shop for the ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. You get writing from me. You get writing from our national NBA writers. You get daily fantasy advice from Josh Lloyd and a lot more. So I highly recommend you sign up for that. And we also want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. We're going live today, so I really appreciate it. It helps a lot when you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. The question today I want to hear people answer in the comments is, why do you think the Knicks continue to struggle with bad teams? I will present my theories, but I'm curious your take, and tell me why I'm wrong, tell me why I'm right. I really appreciate it. But who's talking to you? I'm Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster, whose favorite play-by-play broadcaster. I'm also the Saturday host of Locked On NBA, which will commence in a couple hours tonight. So be sure to tune into that to get all of my takes on tonight's games. But before we go national, we must respect local. The New York Knicks survived the Brooklyn Nets 124-122 in a similar game. A little bit of the opposite, I guess, to their should have been a win over the Chicago Bulls, except this time, instead of the shot rolling halfway down and out, the shot went in for Jalen Brunson. Mikal Bridges tracking Dennis Schroeder, got spun around at midcourt. I did not think watching live he was going to get to it. He ended up getting there, swatting the shot. Big time play for Mikal on a night that was somewhat of a mixed bag for him. I think the place I want to start, because where I see the most consternation amongst Knicks fans is like, how could this happen again? Like a night or two nights after you play the Bulls and you almost blow that one. How do you almost blow this game to the Brooklyn Nets? Well, I think there are a couple of things at play. First, let's talk about the injuries. The Knicks were without 4 rotation pieces. Of course, they haven't had Mitchell Robinson or Precious Achiuwa all season. So if you don't want to count those guys, that is totally fair. And I respect that. But obviously no Karl Anthony Towns, who has arguably been their best player this year. And no Deuce McBride at his spot in the backcourt, where they are not even in the backcourt because they have campaign. He's been playing well. But I'm going to say a spot where they're lacking depth in the sense that their bench has been not a great source of offense this year, to put it kindly, outside of Deuce McBride. And at a certain point, you just run out of shot creation. And even against the Nets team that is very beatable, when you're looking at the Knicks and you're saying they're missing this guy, and you take into account the fact that the Nets coming in were 5-7, the Knicks coming in were 5-6, right? At a certain point, you are what your record says you are. Like, the Knicks have not been... I hesitate to say that they're not substantially better than the Nets, because his net rating does say that they are a level above. But I don't know. I thought coming in, this was a game that the Knicks could lose. And that's not to make excuses for them. And that's not to say there wasn't a lot that could have been done better in this one. But I think my biggest takeaway is that, like, I think the Knicks did really good to build a 20-plus point lead. Was it fun watching them, like, spill it away down the stretch? No, absolutely not. But I do think there were some extenuating circumstances when you take into account the depth, the fact that the Knicks were playing 3 rookies in this game, though Pacom and Tyler Kolek obviously did not get a lot of run in the second half. But you saw some rookie mistakes down the stretch from Ariel Hukporti, and some of it was hard to tell whether it was Tom Thibodeau's design or it was Hukporti, but you saw him a lot of pick and rolls, lingering at the top of the key, trying to get a trap, trying to get a steal, and the 2 times the Nets beat that, they got pretty easy buckets, like one a backdoor lob, one, I think, a Cam Johnson Oh no, it was Dorian Finney-Smith like pumping and driving by Hukporti. There were a couple of times with Hukporti where he got beat, staying out on the perimeter. Another thing was Cam Thomas was just scalding. He had 25 points in less than the first 20 minutes of this game. I think it was like 6 minutes left in the second quarter. He was already up to 25 points. Some of it was poor defense and like the Knicks like failing to get around screens. Like I tracked it throughout the first half. The first three was like on a tap out. Another theme that has really harmed the Knicks against the Bulls and the Nets and like against other teams is just like failure to match up in transition or at times not even in transition, sometimes off a make where another team just plays fast and you just see utter confusion about who's supposed to be guarding who. Like there was a play in the first quarter of this one where Brunson was somehow tasked with guarding two guys because Sims, Hart, and Anunoby were around two. And then Cam Thomas got an open three. That helped them getting going. He made a bunch of really tough ones over Jericho Sims. There's another play in the first quarter where Sims like inexcusably was like doubling and leaving Ben Simmons to try to double Cam Thomas. So Cam Thomas just threw the lob to Sims like you can't, or to Simmons like you can't do that one pass away. And then there were a bunch of other times where Cam Thomas just like got little dribble handoffs and bombed contested threes and they went in and that sucked. Like, but that was reality. He is, if nothing else, an exceptionally talented scorer. 43 points, 16 of 22, 7 of 10 from three, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. Again, was it the Knicks' best defensive effort on him? No, but they put OG Anunoby on him. And that is generally what you do when you want to turn the lights off for a guy. And OG struggled to guard him. And this brings up another issue, which is that should be Mikal Bridges guarding him, and the Knicks clearly did not really feel particularly comfortable in that matchup from the get-go, which is tough because that's why you traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal. It was because last year in the playoffs when you put OG on Tyrese Maxey, Tom Thibodeau realized, like, hey, like this is a matchup that OG Anunoby can take and he will take and he'll do well enough in, but it is certainly not his strength. And like really talented smaller guards can certainly get their shot off on OG Anunoby, right? Because like as mobile as he is for a 6'8" guy, at a certain point physics comes into play, and like an ultra quick 100th percentile athlete at 6'1", 6'2", 6'3" is going to be able to find some room on him driving the ball, running off of screens, and like at a certain point it's too much to ask OG to do. That is supposed to be where Mikal Bridges is elite, right? Screen navigation, rear view contests, and just generally like especially like with a big that can defend the rim, and like you don't have Karl Anthony Towns to blame in this one. Like he was out. You have Sims, you have Hukporti, who are not elite rim protectors, but nominally should be upgrades on Towns, and yet you're not comfortable putting Mikal Bridges on Cam Thomas. So that was a big part of the issue in my mind. Other issues to crop up in the fourth quarter. I mentioned transition defense. There was quite a bit of sloppiness passing the ball. Like Hukporti had a throwaway. Brunson had a throwaway. Hukporti had a play where he was caught at the free throw line and just chucked a jumper. That was never going to go in. I thought the Nets did a much better job guarding Jalen Brunson double teams. I was tracking it earlier in the game, and the Knicks, as they often do, were like consistently getting great shots when Jalen was doubled. That happened less so because the Nets like give them credit. Coach Fernandez, a big upgrade for them over Jacques Vaughn. They were playing in rotation really well, and Ben Simmons was moving his feet and like covering a lot of ground. Cam Johnson was moving his feet and covering a lot of ground. Cam Thomas, Dennis Schroeder were playing on a string, and they were able to double Brunson. They were able to recover. But a big theme there, which is something I've brought up the last few shows, was just like a lack of ideal spacing. There are times where the Knicks nail it, right? Like there was one where OG was doubled, and he was just able to loft it over the top to Hart. And then Hart was doubled, and Hart just ripped a pass into the corner to Bridges. Like you certainly see improvements on the margins, and you see where it's getting better, and you see where they're figuring out where they're supposed to be when Jalen's doubled, and like how they can inflict the maximum amount of pain on a defense when a defense just kind of blatantly decides, hey, we're okay playing with you guys playing 4-on-3 as long as Jalen Brunson is not the one shooting the ball, because we'll get to it. He was absolutely torching the Nets in both senses of the word. In this one, the Knicks gave us some offensive rebounds late. Cam Johnson, was fouled after an offensive rebound. They missed some easy shots, like Josh Hart missed an open three. Again, challenging to ask Hukporti to guard DFS. That's kind of a tough matchup. Cam Thomas just making some really tough shots, like a 26, 27 footer off of a dribble handoff, a little pump and go drive. Like he was playing out of his mind. And look, Schroeder hit a great shot late to put them up 122, 121. And the Knicks are lucky that they have Jalen Brunson, and he was able to come down and say, like, screw this. I am not at all fazed by missing that shot against the Bulls. I'm going to come back. I'm going to hit it this time around, and I'm going to get the win. And then Mikal Bridges, who had a largely silent fourth quarter. Like, I think that was another thing. Like, no Karl-Anthony Towns. You're looking for the guy who was, by all accounts, like having a really good offensive game, 22 points. I believe maybe hit 1-3 in the fourth. I should go double check that. But after like essentially not doing anything all fourth quarter, came up clutch late, big time block. That is exactly the type of play that, again, why the Knicks gave up 5 or 6 first round picks for the guy. The offense was just not really there for Mikal Bridges in the fourth quarter. This one, some of this could be fatigue. He is playing a ton of minutes, but there are also plays like when he got the ball with, I think it was 5:08 left in the fourth quarter, and there were 9 seconds left on the shot clock. And he does not even look towards the rim. He dribbles aimlessly for 3 or 4 seconds, and then he throws Jalen Brunson a live grenade. And that was the kind of stuff that you would see happening in the playoffs last year, where you would track like possessions in the fourth quarter against the Sixers. You'd be like, oh my God, Jalen Brunson has shot 9 of the last 12 possessions. And that was unsustainable. So that's why the Knicks this summer, part of it was losing Isaiah Hartenstein that caused them to restructure. But that's why they said, hey, let's go get Karl-Anthony Towns, like another guy who can create his own shot and can make life easier on Jalen Brunson when he does have to take the whole offense unto himself. But hey, let's go get Mikal Bridges, a guy who just spent a year carrying a team and being the number one option for 82 games. And now it feels like he can't be the number one option for one possession. And that is tough. That is tough after the Knicks invested as much as they did in him. And I'm going to continue that train of thought next here on Locked On Knicks. And going to talk a little bit more about the end of the game. And we will talk about the rookies. I want to get into Ariel Hukporti because I listed a bunch of bat stuff from him, but he was mostly really good. And I think they should play him over Jericho Sims. All that and more next on Locked On Knicks. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends over at Robinhood. So here's what makes Robinhood special. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investment involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, we are back here on Locked On Knicks. First 2 comments of these lives. There were first one from WizBK LA. There were many pros and cons exposed in this game. The rumors regarding Trey Mann may come to fruition if Bridges can't stop Maxey or Cam Thomas types. Fatigue can be a factor with their defense. I don't really think Trey Mann would make a big difference in those types of matchups, other than, to your point, being able to go. That would be kind of interesting. Presumably replacing Campaign, who's been playing pretty well for the Knicks. Nick Yak out-rebounded them, held them down the paint, which we haven't been doing really, with Hukporti playing 30 minutes at center. WizBKLA, Tibbs needs to change his mentality regarding rotations, especially in game situations. I was actually pleasantly surprised that Tibbs did not play everyone 40 minutes. Jalen Brunson was only at 34 somehow in this game. Hart, Anunoby, and Bridges 39, 40, 41 respectively. Anunoby fouling out with 5 minutes left, which was also an issue and something I didn't mention, obviously. The refs were not great in this one. The double technical on Anunoby was completely ridiculous when that was initiated by Dorian Finney-Smith shoving him, and then Anunoby obviously did not actually make any contact with him, and it led to him on a Nets challenge fouling out. So that obviously hurt the Knicks inside the final 5 minutes. But I want to talk more about Mikal Bridges because I think he is like the fact that he hasn't been great this year is one of the reasons why the Knicks struggle in these games. I think with Mikal, like with the Suns' version of him defensively, this team should be a slightly above average defense, and they have not gotten that. I don't think he was particularly bad or particularly good on defense in this one. In fact, like, man, I did not really notice him one way or another defensively in this game. But offensively, again, just not really enough aggression down the stretch. The three-pointer is still an issue for him, even though he shot it well in this game, 4 for 7. It's just that every single one he misses short. Like I think that is what I keep coming back to. And to me, again, that feels like a power transfer issue, is something I was talking about all preseason. And I just kind of want to see like more in and outs. I want to see him be able to take wing threes. Like 3 of the 4, I think, came from the corner. I was a little encouraged. Some of them came from like close to the wing instead of the corner. So maybe there's some baby steps, but just like the lack of aggression offensively is like the biggest thing here. Like over and over again, he is like settling for those mid-range fadeaways. He is shooting so incredibly, seemingly unsustainably well on them. It is like honestly hard for me to complain because he is shooting like the short mid-range shots as if they're layups. So I guess that's fine. The issue is like, again, like I know he's never been like a free throw maven, but the fact that he's taken whatever now like 11 free throws the entire season and we are 12 games in is not good. Is not a particularly good sign for Mikal. And then there were plays like I mentioned, like the Knicks getting good looks at a Brunson big double team. Like there was one where on a short roll, he hits Mikal Bridges and Mikal Bridges pulls up for an 8-footer, which again is like for him, not a bad shot, but the lane was wide open. Like attack the basket hard. Like I've seen him dunk on people. I know he can do it. He had a year in the Suns where he shot 72% at the rim, and he has a similar context now. He's 28 years old. There's no reason he should be washed athletically. Like there was really good stuff in this game for Mikal Bridges, and I'll list it right now for lack of not for lack of for equality's sake here, because I don't want it to be the crap on Mikal Fest. Because again, like he did good stuff, like some of the catch and shoot threes, like he got one off of a Sims offensive rebound, like attacking off the dribble, going right. Dennis Schroeder for a fadeaway. Had a nice back cut for a jam. That was his one at the rim bucket, which again was out of a Brunson double team where Brunson hit Hukporti on the short roll, and then Hukporti hit Mikal going back door. A really nice job running the floor a couple of times, but again, like there's just like some weird strength issues with him at times. And I know he's always been skinny, but like it didn't look like he was weak in the past. Like he had a play where he ran the floor and it was Josh Hart, like hit him on a dime going up the court. And like Cam Thomas blocked him. Like Cam Thomas is 4 inches shorter. Like just go up over him. Like Jesus Christ. That was really frustrating. Yeah, hit some nice threes. Again, like there's one where OG had like a step down screen, quick pass to Mikal, hit a 3 with someone in his face. Yeah, he was good, but just I want a little more from Mikal Bridges. But I want to circle back one more time before we get to Jalen Brunson on that theme of like where the Knicks are not separating in these games. And I think the difference from last season's team where they just like they won every time. What was it? They were 23-2 over their first 25 games last season against sub 500 teams. Like the biggest single difference, I think, is defense and depth. Like those are the two things where if you bring that, or you have a defensive identity and you have an anchor, whether it's Hartenstein or Mitchell Robinson or OG Anunoby, but like typically Anunoby plus a great rim protector at center, like you are just going to be able to hold bad teams below a certain number of points most nights. And your defense, like your shooting doesn't come with you every night. Your defense can come with you every night. And if you have that baseline against bad teams, you have a really high level chance to beat them. And then if you have great depth, which the Knicks had early season, and they had certainly before injuries struck them later in the year. And I think that's also where they beat a lot of bad teams, because that means if you have injuries, like who were the guys to step up last year? If Jalen Brunson was hurt, you had Emmanuel quickly coming in. If RJ Barrett was hurt, you had Josh Hart coming in off the bench. Mitchell Robinson gets hurt, you have Isaiah Hartenstein coming in off the bench, and so on and so forth. And this year, instead of relying on guys like that, the Knicks are relying on Hukporti. They're relying on Pacom. They're relying on Tyler Kolek. They're relying on Campaign, who all have their strengths. And I think the 3 rookies, like amazingly, like I think all three of them will be contributors down the road, which is a hell of a draft for the Knicks. Like when they don't have a top 22 pick to come away 3 contributors, maybe 4 when we see Kevin McCullough Jr., that's incredible. That is a great draft. But if you are relying on those guys against an NBA team with a pulse, which I hate to say it for as much as we all hate the Nets, like that is a fair descriptor for them. They are an NBA team with a pulse right now. You're gonna be in for a tough night, or you're not gonna separate. Like the Knicks had chances to separate in this game. They had chances to put Brooklyn away. They kind of did by going up by 22. But you know what? If that second quarter stretch is different, you're up by 35 heading into the fourth quarter, and the Nets' run is kind of irrelevant. So that is where I would pinpoint again most of the struggles. But we still have a lot more to talk about. Jalen Brunson had an amazing night. And again, I want to get into the rookies. So we are going to discuss that and more next here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at FanDuel. So guys, here is what is so incredible about FanDuel. They let you tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 off in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Guys, I'm addicted, not in an unhealthy way, but in a healthy way, to FanDuel's live bets. It is just so fun to check the in-game lines as they go along, the over-unders. I saw a great window in the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight when it became pretty obvious after the second round that Jake was going to win. There were still amazing odds on FanDuel where you could bet on him. And I think that was basically free cash. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150. I got to emphasize that because it's such a crazy number in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment worth. FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL. And thank you for joining us back here on Locked On Knicks. Amazing night for Jalen Brunson. 34 minutes, 37 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds. Probably if it didn't seem like the Knicks were on the brink of blowing the Nets out, and if he didn't have a slightly bum ankle still, could have done even more. But he was hot from the get-go in this one, hitting big shots on all 3 levels, hitting OG early for a transition jam. Again, just playing out of double teams. Like I mentioned some of them already, but just consistently made the right play out of double teams, like setting up Hukporti as a short roller to hit Mikal Bridges for a jam. I'm about to sneeze. I did not have to sneeze. Trapped Hart, trapped, hit Josh Hart on the roll, kicked to OG for a 3. I mentioned the one to Mikal. And then just like big shots late, right? They hit a big time 3 over Dorian Finney-Smith with the Knicks fledging a little bit when it's 107-98. Like in the third quarter, he was going at Dennis Schroeder, like hitting a fadeaway on him, driving by him. And then a layup late, then an and 1 runner, and then that wing 3. Like this is the Jalen Brunson we've been looking for. And hopefully, like if you remember last year, those first 6 games or so, he was really struggling and he was really cold. I'm kind of hoping the same exact thing happens this year, and it just took 10 or 11 games instead of 6 games, and we get that version of Jalen Brunson from now on, because he was spectacular in this game, and like he was the same guy we saw in the playoffs, where like it is just like sort of a fool's errand to guard him. Like he's getting the free throw line, he's getting to the rim, he's getting to his mid range, he's hitting his threes. We just saw the full repertoire on display from Jalen Brunson in this one. OG Anunoby, I am ready to declare him an off-ball superstar. I've seen people on Twitter being like, yeah, like this is who he is now. Like throw him the ball, let him cook. I'm not really buying all that, even though like the stats have obviously been awesome for him. Had another like crazy efficient night from 2-point range, was just 1 for 8 from distance. And last season that would have been a death knell for him. That would have been like a 7-point game. This year, what does he do? He goes 9 for 9 on 2s, 25 points, 8 rebounds. He has just been spectacular running the floor this year, like over and over and over again. You see him either in transition or in semi-transition, like realizing he has a guard on him, sprinting the floor, pinning the guard, catch the ball, dunk after dunk after dunk. Like we saw him, like I loved it. He put an elbow into Cam Thomas's chest, spun around, jammed it, like mouse in the house all day. He was going for it. And then even in a half court, like he is just so aggressive right now. Like, I had a really nice, like job, like snaking the screen one time and then saw an open lane, just hit the turbo to the rim. Like, I don't know if Jalen taught him this. I don't know if he learned this, like watching quickly last year. I guess they never overlapped, but maybe just scouting him, like his ability to like just start and stop and then jolt to the rim. I didn't really see that last year. And it's something he added to his game. And with his size, with his strength, like this is what Alex and I were trying to drive home all last season. Like, he doesn't have to have a complicated game. He doesn't really have to have a bag. Like literally just use the fact that you are a physical freak of nature, right? That you're a little bit like, he's obviously not the same weight, doesn't have the same hops, but he's kind of like a no bag LeBron, which is still pretty potent because he is just freaking huge and he's good enough and he's coordinated enough to execute basic moves and get a whole lot of dunks. And then just even like running in transition, like the Knicks in general, I saw this the other day, are playing a little bit faster this year than they were last year. And it's a lot of times it's Cat hitting trail threes, but now OG with Cat out is like, all right, I'm going to be that like a one-man secondary break where he's the last guy up the floor, but he is running at a full sprint. And players like Josh Hart like see that and they're like, all right, that's a freight train. I'm going to hit him. And he just got right to the rim and got a jam. Like, had another play where he had like Cam sealed for a jam. Hit a big right before coming out, like reverse fadeaway late over a double team to make it 111-103. But the biggest thing he's doing is running the floor and just making really smart decisions off the ball. So he's been fantastic. Again, the defense wasn't perfect tonight. That is a lot to ask him to chase around Cam Thomas. All right, this is what a lot of you have probably been waiting for. Ariel Hukporti. I thought he was great in this one. 30 minutes, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 blocks. Of course, the fact that he played 30 minutes has you asking Tom Thibodeau, hey, why isn't this guy playing every single night? Fair question, right? Because he outplayed Jericho Sims, and then we didn't see him for 7 games. And again tonight, clearly Tom Thibodeau thought he was outplaying Jericho Sims. 30 minutes to Sims' 18. You see Jericho Sims, and like, again, I don't want this to be a rip on Jericho Sims because he's done some good stuff the last few games. 7 rebounds in 18 minutes, certainly impressive. 3 offensive rebounds, that's really impressive. Did some good stuff tonight, but you see Jericho Sims catch the ball, and like at one point, Mikal, fourth quarter, this is one of his few good offensive moments in the fourth quarter. Drive, kick out to Sims. Sims just waits for Jalen Brunson to sprint and take a dribble handoff from him. Like that is wasting an advantage. While Hukporti, like he's still like an infant at doing this, but you'll see him catch it on the short roll. And like I said before, like he will make the right pass. He will dribble to the rim and have like a double pump finish over Ben Simmons. Like he will post up Keon Johnson, and it doesn't look pretty. And like, it's not totally maximizing the fact that he's 6 inches taller, but he drew a foul. Like he just did some great stuff offensively in this game, and probably even more impressive defensively. 4 blocks in 30 minutes is obviously a great number. We saw him catch on the short roll. Like, sorry, I'm circling back to offense, but I just saw this in my notes. And hit a little flip shot. That is something I cannot remember Jericho Sims doing this year. It was Hartenstein-esque. And then the one possession more than anything else that really stood out to me for him was with 10:33 left in the second quarter. And I went back and rewatched it like 3 times to track every little thing he did, because I thought it was maybe the best defensive possession a Knicks center has had all year. Started off in perfect drop defense to ensure that Dennis Schroeder couldn't pull up for a jumper, but also was not going to get a layup at the rim. Then caught in a 2-on-1 because I can't remember how Schroeder kicked it out, and the Knicks got a little scrambled, and he had Keon Johnson right in front of him, and then Dorian Finney-Smith in the corner, and he stays with Keon, and then sees that Cam Payne is close enough to help. So right when Keon makes the pass, he sprints to the corner to make sure DFS doesn't shoot a 3, and then like scrams like Cam out of the way by just like shoving him up towards Keon Johnson, and then sticks with Dorian Finney-Smith on the drive, then goes straight up after another kick out against Jalen Wilson, while OG Anunoby like comes in and help and strips the ball. Then on the ensuing rebound, in the ensuing inbound, sniffs out a lob to Zaire Williams with 1 second left on the clock, goes up, blocks it. Just a ridiculous possession where he basically single-handedly snuffed out 3 or 4 different opportunities at his shot. So I thought it was a great game for him. Very quiet game for Tyler Kolek and Pacom Dadier. Pacom, the jumper, still looks beautiful. Drained his only shot from 3. Was nice to see him get to the free throw line. Had a nice closeout to swat a Cam Johnson pass. Tyler Kolek didn't do much. Did create some free throws for Josh Hart. I just want to see Tyler Kolek play 10 minutes in a row. I know it'll probably only happen in a blowout. I understand there are still a lot of issues for him defensively, like you saw. Basically, whenever he was in OG Anunoby, was like his babysitter. Like he was constantly coming over and being like in a movie, like an animated movie about animals, where like one of the little kids like scampers and is like about to jump off something, and the teacher comes in and picks him up. I don't know why that's my analogy, but that's kind of what OG Anunoby is like for Tyler Kolek, just not letting him get in any trouble, not letting him get hurt, like protecting him from himself on the defensive end. So that is why he's not playing. But I do, like, every time Kolek's in, I'm excited when he has the ball in his hands. I'm like, all right, are we going to be the 7 seconds or less Suns all of a sudden? Maybe that's just because he's short and white and has the Steve Nash hair a little bit. I am getting nostalgic for no reason, but I want to see more of him. Shout out to Josh Hart. He played a good game in this one, like created a bunch of transition for the Knicks with his defense and his passing. Nearly another triple-double, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. He was really good. And yeah, it was a stressful but ultimately much-needed win for the Knicks. Again, I think they will look a lot better next game tomorrow night if both Deuce McBride and Karl-Anthony Towns are back. And hopefully it will not be as stressful as this one was. But I really appreciate you guys. I'm sorry this got up a little late, but I really appreciate you guys tuning into this live stream on a Saturday night. And of course, we'll have a lot more for you either tomorrow night or Monday morning covering Knicks Nets. Until then, be good. We'll talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.